So as Maricar mentioned, myself, Ben, and YEESHU will be moderators for today. We work on the steering committee for the Asia Pacific Young Professionals Group. I think all of you have had some introduction to this, either through your firm or our previous webinars. If you would like more information on the group, you can reach out to either myself or Maricar by joining the session today. You'll also be signed up for the group's mailing list. So before we get started, we're going to briefly have a breakout session. But before we do that, I would like to introduce today's panelists. Today's panelists are from 3 of the LEA Asia Pacific firms. So we have Allan Mckeown from Prosperity Advisory Group. We have Adam Livermore from Desenchir and Associates, and we have Sandeep Sehgal from AKM. So we'll hear a little bit more from them later, but before we jump into the panel, Maricar, I think you'll split us out into short breakup groups. Okay.
Maybe for the panel discussion. Thank you.
Sure, yeah, I think we can kick off the panel discussion. So I had briefly introduced the panelists before we had the breakout groups. I hope the breakout groups were a good chance for you to get to meet a few of the other Asia Pacific member firms. So the way the panel discussion will work today is we have 3 moderators and 3 panelists. Each moderator will ask a question and 3 panelists will discuss, will answer and discuss that question, and then we'll move on to a new question from the next moderator. So to get things started, I briefly introduced our panelists and the firms they were with, but I hadn't given their background. So to get started, maybe each of our panelists could give us an overview or an introduction of their professional background. So what they were doing before they joined their current firm, their career development with their current firm, and their current roles. So Allan, I think you're the most senior panelist we have for today's discussion. So do you want to get started?
Absolutely, happy to, and that's a very polite way to address my length of tenure in the profession. So I started at the ripe old age of 18 in accounting as a trainee, pretty much straight out of high school after spending a year in Denmark as an exchange student. I joined Arthur Young, as it then was, became Ernst & Young as a school leaver trainee, and completed university after work each evening as an evening course for about 5 years through that traineeship and undergraduate period. So had 42 years in accounting. I don't know all the answers, as my colleagues at Prosperity would well know, but I've seen a lot of things, and I'm hoping to share a few things that'll be useful for you today. Reason for joining the profession way back then, that before most of you were born, but many of you could remember, accounting was a very secure profession. Unemployment rate was 10% when I joined it, much smaller now, but appreciated the security and also the diversity of career opportunities within finance and accounting. I always was attracted to tax. I enjoyed the opportunity of doing audit work and understanding complex systems and being exposed to larger corporations. And then now we've got financial planning and other things in it. So a great diversity of career opportunities. What I didn't realise at the time, but I've realised since it, is that a financial background is also a useful springboard into other things. So I've been fortunate enough to been asked to join a number of boards in energy, banking, professional sports and other areas. Everybody needs someone that understands the financial landscape and has a good grasp of accounting. So early on in that professional year, Ernst & Young bought a very small practice here in Newcastle, only 6 people in it at the time. So I had the great opportunity to work very closely with a very good partner, a dynamic partner that came from the Sydney office to run that practice. Because it was such a small office, I got great exposure to him and to clients from a very young age, and worked in that practice as it grew from the then 6 people to around 80 when I left. So that demonstrated to me some of the important things that you could do in building the practice, and some very valuable insights. Took some staff exchanges, as you do, something that LEA has also done, and we're working to enhance as well, the opportunity for some of you to work with our member firms around the world. But in the Ernst & Young landscape, if I was to progress, I needed to leave Newcastle. I wanted to stay here. So I bought in with a very small sole practitioner, $100,000 worth of fees at that time, which wasn't enough to sustain both of us. But with one staff member, we set upon a sort of a growth plan to the stage that now, a bit over 30 years later, Prosperity's 150 people, 12 partners, 23 million in revenue. So it's been a great journey. So that's my background. Happy to hand back. To you, Cole.
Okay, thanks, Alan. I know you could have said quite a lot more. You have a very fascinating story. So hopefully we hear a little bit more as we progress throughout the panel. Adam, do you wanna take that question? Introduce yourself.
Sure, thanks, Kyle. Yes, hello everyone. My name's Adam Livermore. I'm in Dalian, China. I joined this industry in my early 30s, so a bit later than Alan there. And previously I was working in commercial real estate in Japan. So I didn't really have a background, and in fact, I still don't have a specialization in accountancy. I joined Des & Shearer in our Beijing office in Beijing when I was in my early 30s, and I was working in business development, which basically means working with accountants and with lawyers to provide solutions to our clients. And when I was there in relatively early days, I asked the company, the big boss of the company, if you like, whether I could open a new branch for the company in Dalian, where I'm sitting today. So he gave me that opportunity at the time, and he gave me one accountant to work with originally back then. And now I think it's 17 years later, here I still am. So quite a long journey, all in the same city, but quite a few things have happened in the interim period there. The first 2 years I found were pretty tough, just with one person working under me and not being an accountant myself, very limited resources. It was hard to break even in terms of profitability during those initial years. And some days it was hard to know even what to do. But a break came, opportunity knocked, if you like. And for me and for this office of Des & Shearer, it came in the form of what we call payroll in our industry. As you are all probably aware, payroll doesn't necessarily need a lot of accounting understanding. It's more relating to HR, it's mathematics, it's also system and organization. So this was kind of something that I could do. And at the time, there weren't too many other people in Des & Shearer who were very enthusiastic to get involved in this kind of work. And it was a little bit daunting because the project that we took on was actually a 2,000 person payroll. And at the time, we'd only done payrolls for maybe 10 or 20 people. The largest payroll Des & Shearer had was our own payroll, which was probably 100 and something people. So I took on that challenge with my small team in Dalian. We made a success of it. And we developed a system, of course, because you can't do that kind of thing on Excel. It was a very complicated payroll. And it worked. Basically, we got through it, it stabilized, and that client became Des & Shearer's largest client. And from that day on, I think I could say things became relatively smooth. From that experience in the HR admin and payroll area, you could say, the company gave me the opportunity to manage the internal HR for Des & Shearer. And then a few years later, the internal IT. All these kind of came onto my plate as a result of that, I think I could say. Later on, they gave me responsibility for the Shanghai office, which was the largest office, still is actually at Desonshire. And after that, the India office. I know we have a number of colleagues in India on the call today. So this kind of all happened naturally after that. And yeah, I suppose in the middle of all of those things, I became a partner. I became a partner about 8 or 9 years ago at Desonshire. So these days, in addition to doing all of those kind of things, basically my role is like the COO of Desonshire. I handle those internal departments and I manage 7 or 8 offices now for the company. Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Adam. Having worked with you, being in the same firm, I know you've been instrumental in helping us build out new service lines, developing our internal technologies and our client service technologies, and also helping to open up new offices. So yeah, I hope we can discuss that a little bit more as we go through the panel. Sandeep, do you want to briefly introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, hi guys. Yeah, everyone. So yeah, my name is Sandeep Sehgal. I'm a tax partner in AKM Global. So I think I joined this firm in 2014. So if I talk about my journey as an accounting professional, so I mean, when I actually was in my school or something, most of the, I mean, if I talk about the Indian scenario, most of the kids actually wanted to be doctors or engineers. So actually, then I actually wanted to pursue a different path. Then I opted for accounting and everything and enrolled for the relevant courses. Then after that, this chartered accountancy examination in India was a natural choice. And once I qualified and during the internship, I joined a mid-sized firm where I get varied experience in the field of accounting, audit, and tax and several other areas. And after qualification of my examination, then I joined that firm only as an executive. And there I actually contributed into these fields even more after that and learned a lot more. And as I mentioned, I joined AKM Global in 2014 and I made the switch. So when I joined here, basically my profile was more of an executive manager in the virtual CFO stream of the firm. But then back then, actually, we didn't have much international tax or transition advisory practice. We had, but I mean, the assignments used to come on, I mean, not at a very large scale. Then the thing is that then I actually wanted to pursue other areas as well. So what I used to do is that I used to manage my time in a manner so that I could finish all my routine tasks by a particular time during the day. And after that, I used to study and research for other areas like valuations and GST and international taxation and everything. And I think that actually helped me because when the opportunities came in the firm, I mean, I was actually ready to grab them. Then it was a kind of a natural transition where when the practice of the advisory division in the firm was growing, so then after that, I actually went into that area and moved out from the virtual CFO, and now actually I'm heading that division in our firm. I think that is a summary of my professional journey so far. Thank you.
Thanks, Sandeep. Yeah, I think similar to the comments I had made for Adam, as we move through the panel, it'd be great to hear about your experience building out new services within the firm. And I know a number of the firms on the call today may be interested in virtual CFO services or further developing virtual CFO services that they've already introduced. So that might be an area for discussion as well. I'm going to hand it over to Ben for the next question to the panel. After the moderators run through several questions with the panel, we'll also open it up for questions from the audience as well.
Cool. Thanks, Kyle. if our panel could just cast their minds back to their formative years of accounting, as Allan said, it might be even older than some of us. Could you guys think of sort of any nuggets of gold that you want to share with us that sort of helped, you know, accelerate your careers, fast track them? These can be things like methodologies of work or tips and tricks for networking, stuff like that. So Allan, did you want to kick off with that one?
Thanks, Ben. But firstly, Adam, thanks for your payroll analogy. We've got a small division. I can't wait to tell them about that 2,000 person opportunity and how you guys got stuck into it. So thank you for that. So for me, I guess one of the foundation bits is that technical ability is really important. You need to get the technical foundation right and understand what you're doing, but it is just the ticket to the game. So you need to understand the technical layout, but the important aspects for me is being able to put yourself in your client's shoes. And when I was at that firm previously, before starting my own, in my early 20s, I was deep in recession in Australia, was doing some work with a client that had some property development, was doing some cash flow projections. I just couldn't get it to work for a refinance. I came in to see my partner, had a look over what I'd done and the approach, and he pulled a letter opener out of his drawer, a bit like this one, which you can see it on it, and said, "You know what, McKeown, I'd like to cut you down the middle with this letter opener, just so you can feel how your client is feeling at the moment, so you can understand the position that he's in." So it quickly made me think that it wasn't just about the cash flow projection, but we were helping that person survive financially. And I guess that's the message I've got for each of us. What we do on a day-to-day basis is not about the balance sheets and profit and losses. We've got to get those right. But the clients aren't necessarily interested in those. What they want to know is, in this profit and loss, what can we see in the numbers that can help them run a more profitable business, to make their business more valuable, and so they can retire more comfortably or retire earlier. So what's that end game? It's not necessarily the tax return. It is minimising tax so the client has more after-tax income to do the things they want to do. So it may sound like a small leap, but I think it's an important one, that we get bogged down in doing what we're doing and forget about the goals and aims of the people that we're doing it for. In amongst all that, in terms of tips, one thing that we can't do enough for our clients is benchmark them against others in their industry. Now, I know in most jurisdictions, certainly in ours in Australia, we have access to industry benchmarks. And I found that the most enlightening thing to sit down with clients and run through. So not just how they've done last year or last quarter compared to now, but how their growth or profit improvement compares to how the industry's going. Those are real light bulb moments for them, and they come alive and really appreciate the value of the work that we're doing. And I think as advisors, we get through that piece, if we're thinking like our clients, we're working with them to achieve their goals. The next bit, and this is a harder part, is to not give them what they ask for, but give them the advice that you know that they need. And what that means is clients only know a small sliver about tax or financial management, whatever it might be. They'll come to you with a question or what they think they want. But we all have vast experience, certainly if we don't individually, our partners do, to understand what's available. We work with hundreds and hundreds of different businesses, and what they've come to us for may not be the best solution or answer or thing for them to do. And it can be a bit tough or a bit confronting about having that conversation, but they're important conversations that need to be had, and the clients will respect them and appreciate them, and importantly, pay for them. Now, at our levels coming through the business, we might think, look, we don't know it all, but we know so much more about the financial regulations, the tax rules than our clients do, and we should have confidence to have those discussions, of course, in concert with our partners and so forth. So those are a few tips or ideas from me, Ben. I hope those are helpful.
Very good. I enjoyed the part about the letter opener. I'm not too sure if Adam would agree being a HR professional, but I'll throw it over to you, Sandeep. Do you have any sort of nuggets of gold that you want to share with the people today?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Ben. So, so basically, what I would like to emphasize on the things which I have been doing over the past several years. So I think most of this is, as Allan has already alluded to. I think the first aspect he mentioned was about the technical skill and capability. I think that is a kind of a given. I mean, in whatever field you are in, you have to be technically sound. I think then only the customers would have confidence on you, and you will be able to give better solutions. And at the same time, I mean, generally I tell this to my other colleagues as well, that while advising to the clients for any aspect, you have to have a holistic view of things rather than focusing only on the area that you are looking into. I mean, for example, you cannot keep aside the commercial consideration of a transaction and just keep looking at the regulatory aspects. Besides, I think the other couple of things are, I mean, generally what I have been doing, that I have been responding to my clients or even to my colleagues for any queries generally on a very quicker basis. For example, I mean, I think that has helped me in another area. For example, we are contributing a lot to Indian media as well. So if they are actually, if there is any update or something, you have to be very quick to give them an update or maybe kind of give an insight. So same kind of thing, I think you have to follow with your clients as well. Generally, what we do is that if we get any query from the clients over emails or even calls, we try to respond to them at the earliest possible. I think that is also one of the most important aspects. And the other thing could be that generally I am very methodical when I do things at my end. I think that generally saves a lot of time, because then otherwise, if you have every new assignment, you don't need to reinvent the wheel every time. So if you standardize the things, then I think that saves you a lot of time. And I think the last thing could be, I mean, this is a kind of a qualitative aspect as such, not really related to the work, but I think one has to be very humble. I mean, while interacting with colleagues or clients or anybody, because I think what I have learned is that with humility comes a lot of things, like it helps you to connect people more quickly. And I think you are able to listen them better. You are able to empathize with them much better. And I think it helps you in a lot of relationship building. I think that's it from my side. Thank you.
Thanks, Sandeep. There seems to be this common theme of, you know, putting yourself in the client's shoes to see how they would feel or what they want, which I think is very, very important. Adam, did you want to wrap things up on that question, just around any things that have helped accelerate your career over the past few years?
First of all, yeah, I'd like to agree with Sandeep on the humility aspect, and I think Allan would agree with that as well, based on what I heard from him. I think that's vital. I'd like to focus on something a little bit different. I think in an organization, if the listeners here, they're looking to get to the tops of their organizations, I think that's why they're on today, right? So I would suggest try to do something that others in your organization can't do or are not really willing to do. Don't just look to replicate what the more senior people in your company can already do. Your company needs to expand outwards to grow. And in order to do that, if you can do new things, that's great, or the same things in new geographies. So I was mentioning in my introduction, for instance, I started the Darlien office here of Devonshire, and now I think this year actually is turning into our biggest office by headcount since then, over the 17 years. So that's, you know, an expansion, if you like. India, I took over the Indian office, and it's growing there. So all these things that other colleagues could have done actually, but probably didn't really want to do. If you're willing to take on these things, then that will propel you in the organization, I believe. And I've got a particular example via an anecdote that I wanted to share with everyone in the IT area, because IT is probably one of the most important things that I do for the company now, even though I'm not myself a specialist at it. It's a story of something that happened to us about 12 years ago now. 12 years ago, IT for companies like ourselves was much more basic than it is nowadays. Nowadays, you probably have ERPs integrating with other systems and social media and all sorts of things, right? But back in around 2010, for an accounting firm like we were with maybe 150 people, what we had was an email server, and then we had a lot of computers all over the place, right? And so all that needed to function really for our business to work was the email server and then the connection to the computers. At the time, we only had 2 IT people, both of them sitting in Beijing, one senior, one junior. And occasionally the email server would go wrong. And the IT manager, what would he do? He would dispatch the junior IT guy to go to the Beijing TV tower, which was the data center, and press the reset button on the email server. And then bingo, our email would come back, maybe about 10:30 in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning. This would happen 2 or 3 times a year. That was the way we dealt with things. And that IT manager, he got married. He went for his wedding. He went to the very north of China into a little village, and he was preparing for his wedding. And the email server went down. I remember it was a Thursday morning. And as normal, the junior IT guy went to the Beijing TV tower, pressed the reset button, nothing happened. So the company had no email, basically, 150-person company. And the IT manager was in provincial China on the telephone, wouldn't come away from his wedding. We were kind of stuck for 2 days. So in that situation, somebody has to do the firefighting, somebody has to pick up the situation. And that's what I did. I had a very young colleague here in Dalian who was studying at a university that had a strong IT department. And she and some of the people at that university picked up what we could, and within 24 hours had the company back online. And as soon as the IT manager came back from his wedding, he was unfortunately fired. Of course, he had to prioritize his wedding, but he should have had a plan B in place before going, right? And then I was basically put in charge of IT. So since those days when we just had those 2 IT guys doing a very passive job in the IT sphere, we now have an IT team of about 25, and they're not only doing the internal IT work for ourselves, but they're also doing help desk work for our clients, data security, data protection kind of projects, as well as ERP implementations and these kind of things. So you just need a willingness basically to be able to, how can I say, take the risk to do things that other people won't want to do in your organization. And that can propel yourself forward. I felt kind of obligated to do that because nobody else was doing it at the time. Looking back on it, if that episode hadn't have happened, maybe I wouldn't be a partner here today. I've never really thought of that, but that's the kind of thing that happens in people's careers. And I think you either take them or you don't. So yeah, basically be prepared to be a firefighter then, and also be a pair of safe hands once the fire has been fought. I think that would be my advice.
Very good advice, and I find it crazy to think that you just hit a reset button for entire firm's email like a PlayStation. But yeah, I'll throw it over to you, YEESHU, for the next round of questions.
Quite interesting, incident that Adam just, told all of us, and a lot of inspiration behind it. And similarly for what, Mr. Sandeep at Mr. Allan just told all of us. Thank you so very much. My question is, as people in the leadership in your respective organizations, what are the qualities or skills, or you think the areas where one should focus for which can be of benefit to someone whom you look forward to be the future senior leaders of your respective firms or organizations?
Thanks, YEESHU.
So let's start with my reporting tax partner, Mr. Sandeep.
Yeah, thanks, YEESHU. So I think as I have emphasized in my reply to the previous question, yes. So first thing is just the technical skill for any particular area, that is a given. So that cannot be negated anyways. Besides, the other thing is that what I feel is there are 1 or 2 things which are essentially required nowadays. That whatever you are doing, it has to be backed by the sound research. So I think whatever field you are into, I think you should have the acumen for research and whatever work you're doing. I mean, that should be backed by solid research. And the other thing is, I think nowadays the production of content on a regular basis is very important. That helps you in networking and so many other things as well. And you can also showcase the knowledge base of your firm. So I think this is the one area which I think the young people should look into. And there could be other qualitative skills, like for example, I think one of the most important thing is listening skills. What I have realized is that it is very important. For example, I mean, primarily in the field of advisory, and I think it is relevant for other fields as well, that you should listen carefully, or at least read carefully what the clients have stated to you. Because if you get a fact wrong, then I think the solution that you may provide the client, that may not be very apt for them. So I think that is the one important thing one should keep in mind. And I think the other important thing is that people in the organization should be really keen to take initiatives. So rather than, I think Ben also mentioned that, I mean, rather than looking at that you waiting for the opportunities, I think you can look to create opportunities for yourself, where you can itself tell your seniors or the managers that, okay, I want to do this, I will. And I think generally most managers will support you on all these things. And I think the other important thing is that one should look to contribute more and have some patience. I think what I realize is that people are generally looking for immediate rewards for whenever they do some things. I think that kind of tendency should be curbed, and I think they should look more into contributing. I think the rewards will come automatically. I think these are the few things I think which are important, and so I thought these are the worth highlighting. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. And moving on to Adam for the same question.
Well, thank you, YEESHU. Yeah, I think first of all, probably a good idea to define what a leader is compared with a manager. I think in Des Shira, we have about 300 employees now. I would say we have 10 leaders, which are approximately equal to our equity partners, if you like, and about 40 managers outside of them. So 50 managers, of which 10 are what I call leaders. So I think I want to distinguish what I think is the difference between the leaders and the managers. And I would say for a leader, personally, I think the defining characteristic is the ability to delegate work. What does that actually mean in practice? I think the most important thing is to be able to hire people that are smarter than yourselves and trust them and support them as they do their work, as they make mistakes, which they will make, especially as they try to do new things. And you can only do that if you hire smart people. If you hire not smart people, of course, they'll make too many mistakes repeatedly, and that won't be good for you as a leader either, right? So the ability to hire those people and trust them is very important. Support them, protect them. And then I think that's kind of different from a manager role. A manager can afford to have some average people reporting to them. But if you're a leader, then you only have about 6 or 7 people reporting to you, and those people might have, up to 100 people reporting to them. Those 6 or 7 people really need to be very special people, very good. So that's why it's important. I would say flexibility is also very important. The ability to look at things from a wide perspective rather than a narrow perspective. If I take accountants as an example there, I've worked with a lot of accountants over the years. Some of them are very focused on the way things have always been done, traditionally been done. They don't really think about things, how it could be improved or how they can use technology. Simple thing, even in the early years, how to get our accounts to use 2 screens, 2 monitors instead of 1. Very difficult for some of them, but the more open-minded ones, they're even using 3 screens these days. And I think a combination maybe of these 2 things, flexibility and the ability to hire smart people, could be combined in something I would call openness. Openness towards your customers, openness towards your colleagues, and openness towards concepts. Because as a leader, I don't think you can be closed. If you're closed, then you won't be learning, you'll stop learning. And then if you're a leader and that's your situation, then your company won't be learning and your company won't be growing. So yeah, I think those are the defining characteristics if we're separating your leaders from the managers.
Very, very well said. Very well said. So, what's your, what's like, Alan, what's your take on it?
Sure. Certainly endorse Sandeep and Adam's comments. For me, when recruiting, even at the undergraduate level or school level, which I don't do anymore, but always try to think about what this person would look like sitting across the desk from a client. And what that is about is that we may be the smartest people in the room or the office, but unless we can articulate the ideas across to our clients, unless we can explain to them in a non-technical way they can understand what we're trying to advise them on, it's largely wasted and they miss it. So that ability to communicate and articulate things is really important. None of us like public speaking, but a great bit of advice I got early on in my career was, if there's ever an opportunity, take it. Put your hand up, do the presentation at the roundup at the firm, be the one that reports on your division, and it will never be easy, but it just gets easier and you become better at it. I'm certainly far from an expert, but that was one really good bit of advice I got. In terms of your action at the firm, you've got to get your numbers, and those are your productivity, billing or whatever, but take responsibility for them. So if you think there's a lack of work in your area, don't just wait for your partner to come down from a high and deliver. Actually do something about it. So work with the partner to bring some new business in. You will generally know what's happening with the clients better than the partner or director. What new opportunities do you have in those clients? So actually proactively take a role in getting your individual numbers. Probably all heard about, and I've spoken to our firm about this recently, the 5 people you spend the most time with significantly shape your career. And to me, that's trying to spend more time with your directors or partners at the firm. Push the managers out of the way, go with them on client visits, ask them to go on client visits. And as I did as a young person, when they take you on those client visits, thank them for doing so. Because you won't learn what clients want until you spend enough time in those meetings to hear the discussions, hear their needs and concerns and so forth. So try and spend time with your partners, trying to get in front of our clients. And more broadly within the firm, and it's already been said by my colleagues, is take responsibility and put your hand up. There are plenty of projects happening at all of our businesses. There are roles, and I'll say thanks to Ben, when we're looking for somebody to get involved with the YP steering committee. He put his hand up, and that's great initiative. It does lots of things. It shows you're a self-starter. It gives you broader profile, not only across your own firm, but in this case, across the LEA network. And that's really important. And I guess lastly, it's just, think about what the partners are doing and look at them and act like them. And I don't mean, strutting around or staying out for a long lunch, but what are the things that they do? They're bringing in work, they're delegating, they're thinking of new concepts, they're developing new areas of the business. We can all participate in that. We can all do it. And the sooner we do it, the earlier we're recognised and the faster we progress our careers.
That's very true. I really liked the part of, articulating your ideas to, for arriving at the solutions for the client is what is there. One of the very senior tax partners of our firm often tells me that, that I want to, tell all of you here, just to supplement what, all our, panelists have said, is that there has to be a perfect balance in what your ideas is, what your research is, and then what your execution is. And then what is the solution that you're giving to the client? There has to be a perfect balance. Idea can be amazing. Your research can be, much more amazing than your idea. But if an execution is weak, if an execution is not supplementing to your ideas or your research, then there is a kind of a disagreement between all these three. So just to supplement what all our learned and experienced panelists have conveyed and imparted us through their life lessons, I would say, in their professional experience. So just to add to that, thank you so much. And if there is any question from the audience, please feel free to ask or write in the chat box to take it forward.
I think I can see some hands raising from San Martin Council. I will unmute you.
Thanks for giving this opportunity. My question is in relation to, as Allan mentioned in the introduction part, that most of us were like not even born when they started working in this industry, and we are quite young. So in context of career development, one of the challenges, as I'm like quite young in this industry for like 5 years, that one of the challenge I face is issues related to the generational communication, because when we dealing with the client, there are range of clients where we are dealing with the different generations, and to be honest, as a person, I'm into more into automation, interested in more into the automation of my work. And so in order to eliminate all those issues which are generational kind of communication, what are the insights from your side? Thank you.
So the question is more or less related to the automation. If any of our panelists wants to take it up.
I'm excited about the ability of data analytics and so forth to give us better quality information. And I think that's one of the great things for our profession and will help us evolve. What that will mean, that'll give us the ability to help our clients make better decisions sooner. But what won't change, and this is across generations or whatever, and will keep us at the forefront of advice, is interpreting that information and delivering it to clients. So there'll still be a role for us in an advisory capacity, no matter where data analytics and AI heads. So it'll be an exciting, again, leverage piece in the future.
Maybe I can also comment on this one as well. We're doing a lot in IT in Des and Shira, and we find that we're actually more advanced than many of our customers. Our customers are SMEs and mid-sized organizations. So some of them are receptive to the ideas that we have, like we proactively tell them, you can do this, you can do that, you can automate this, automate that. Some of them are responsive, some of them are not. And it really depends on the nature of their organizations and the person you're talking to within those organizations. So I appreciate the person that asked the question, was mentioning that not maybe all of the people that your stakeholders at your clients are receptive to these wonderful things that you can give them, right? I think it's a question of identifying which ones are going to be receptive. As we say in Chinese, you can play the piano to a cow. It won't really appreciate it, right? You have to find those organizations that will be willing to listen to you. And then you have to work with the people in those organizations that are the same kind of people as you are in your organizations, the progressive ones, if you want to make headway there. So you can't just approach all your clients with great ideas. You have to approach the right clients at the right time towards the right people in order to make progress there. And those stakeholders may be of a similar age to yourselves.
Yep.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Allan. Thanks a lot. This is very insightful. Thank you.
Another question from Laura is, are there any professional resources that you have found beneficial in your career that you would recommend that we would check out to help us in our career development? So are there any professional resources which you have found beneficial in your career journey so far, in the development of your career so far? Allan?
Sure. I think there are a number of practice experts, professional services advisors that run seminars from time to time. There's a few here in Australia. There are a couple of good international ones. It's keeping an eye out for those and making the time to spend the day or half day listening to what they have to say. So I've found those inspiring and personally helpful. As I've got on in my career, I have to say, and this is a free plug, LEA has just been tremendous. The work groups where I've had the opportunity to meet and spend time with other managing partners who at the time have been further along their career than me. I've learned a lot about how to grow a firm and develop myself as a managing partner. So it's just taking the time out to invest, I think, is the important part. And then as I say, when the student is ready, the teacher will present themselves.
Okay. Adam, from your side, any professional resources that you can recommend?
From my side, I see a big area right now is data security, data protection. And there's a number of people in our organization that are getting licenses and qualifications in this area. I think it's a very hot topic. I know Thailand's just come up with their data security laws. So has Cambodia, I believe. And I imagine India already has some, but they're still developing. So for the young professionals in organizations that are consulting oriented, I think for the next 10 years, there's going to be plenty of work for anyone who gets these kind of qualifications. And especially in China right now, the people that have these qualifications are earning huge amounts of money. So that may happen in your markets as well.
Okay. Mr. Sandeep, if you can summarize, any professional resource that you can recommend to, all of us, which can help us.
Yeah, so generally, see, early on in my career, I actually used to read a lot of books and everything, but it's just that I don't find much time, but I still read a few when I find time. But I think what I have learned is that I think Allan was mentioning during his conversation that you need to look at your partners, what you're doing. So I think I have been following the kind of same thing, because when in my earlier firm as well, and when I was here, I used to look at my partners, that how they are managing their time, how they are actually, what they are actually doing for the professional development, how they are carrying themselves. I think you also learn through observation a lot, and I think it is a quicker way to learn.
Absolutely correct. Thank you. Thank you, sir. So I would pass on to Ben for the closing remarks. So Ben, over to you now.
YEESHU, and thanks to our panelists for being so generous with your time today. I know I've learned a lot of good insights and even got a little bit of inspiration and motivation to get out there and, have a go, throw my hat in the ring like Adam did with the IT server issue. Thanks to everyone else for joining us today. We hope to see you again. Our next LEA webinar is in August, so you'll see an email getting blasted out about that shortly. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Have a nice day.
Thank you for your time. Have a nice day.
Everyone.
Thanks for joining us today.
Nice
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.